Good morning, students. In the previous class, we had discussed about motion in straight line and various concepts through which we can study it. Moreover, we studied about the various graphs which are used to depict motion. Let us move to the next topic, which is equations of uniformly accelerated motion. Now, you've already studied about this in your previous classes. That is, there are three equations of motion for a uniformly accelerated body. Please note that these equations are true only for the body which is being uniformly accelerated or which is undergoing a uniformly accelerated motion. Suppose an object starts with an initial velocity u and has a constant acceleration a, and it covers a distance s in time t, and its final velocity becomes v. Then v can be given as u plus at, s is equal to ut plus half at square, and v square is equal to u square plus 2as. These are the three equations of motion. Let's move on to their derivation through graphical method. Again, you have already studied this thing in your previous classes, so it will just be a revision for you over here. We have taken a velocity time graph in which time has been taken on x-axis whereas velocity on the y-axis. The graph line over here, that is AE, represents the motion of a body which is uniformly accelerated. At the start of the motion, that is when the time was 0, the initial velocity of the object is u, whereas at time t, the velocity of the body becomes equal to v. Now, if we draw straight lines from point A and B on x-axis and y-axis, we get this particular shape which has been shown over here, that is AODCB. We are going to derive various equations of motion through this graph itself. Some more things, as you can observe over here, OD is equal to T, OA is equal to U, which is also equal to DC, that is DC is also equal to U. Now BD is equal to V, hence BC becomes V minus U. Since this portion from here to here is V and from here to here is U, so V minus U will give us this portion, that is BC over here. Let's move forward. If an object is moving with initial velocity u which changes to final velocity v after a time t, and the distance covered in this time is s, then for the first equation of motion we can find out the slope of time velocity graph, and we have already studied that the slope of time velocity graph is acceleration. So finding the slope over here, we get a is equal to CB upon AC. Since you can observe over here, for triangle ABC, CB represents the perpendicular whereas AC represents the base. So since slope is tan theta, we can write A is equal to CB upon AC, which can also be written as V minus U upon T, since CB is equal to V minus U and AC is equal to T. So we can write it as V minus U upon T. Further, moving T this side, we get AT is equal to V minus U, which can also be written as V is equal to U plus AT, which is our first equation of motion. Let's move to second equation of motion. We have already studied that in order to calculate distance from time velocity graph, we can find out the area under the graph. That is, the area under this graph line can be represented by AODCB, which can be divided into two shapes. We have a rectangle AODC and a triangle ABC over here. So finding out the area of both the portions and adding them, we can get the total distance covered by the object. You can see the same thing over here, that is S is equal to area of rectangle ACDO plus area of triangle ABC. Now since the formula for area of rectangle is length into breadth, so multiplying length into breadth over here, that is DC into AC, we get the area of rectangle, and area of triangle is half base into height, so it will become half into BC into AC. Now since DC is equal to U, AC is equal to T, CB is equal to V minus U, and AC is equal to T, so putting the values, we get this equation. Solving further, since we know that AT is equal to V minus U, so putting it over here, we get UT plus half AT whole into T, which can be written as S is equal to UT plus half AT square. That is our second equation of motion. Moving to the third equation of motion, the area over here can also be calculated by finding out the area of this trapezium. We all know that formula to calculate the area of trapezium is half into sum of parallel sides into height. So applying the same formula over here, we get OA DB, which are the parallel sides, into height, which is OD according to our graph, whole upon 2. Putting the values, we get half U plus V, that is OA is equal to U and DB is equal to V, whole into T, because OD was equal to T. Now T can also be written as V minus U upon A, so putting the values over here, we get half into V plus U into V minus U whole upon A, which can be written as half into V square minus U square whole upon A, which can be rearranged and written as V square is equal to U square plus 2AS. That is our third equation of motion. Let's move on to the next topic, which is derivation of equations of motion using calculus. The first equation is known as velocity time equation. Let us consider an object moving along a straight line with uniform acceleration A. Let U be the velocity at time t is equal to 0 and V be the final velocity at time t is equal to t. Let dV be the infinitesimally small change in velocity due to infinitesimally small time interval dt. That is, dV is the velocity corresponding to time interval dt. So acceleration can be given as dV upon dt. We have already studied about this in previous classes. Now rearranging the terms, it can be written as dV is equal to A dt. That is, we have taken this dt onto the other side of equal to sign. Now integrating both sides within the specified limits, we can write it as integration of dV from U to V is equal to integration of A dt from 0 to t. Now we all know that the integration of dV will be V, and because it is between the limits 0 to V, so it can be written as V minus U. However, when we integrate A dt, we all know that A is constant over here because we are talking about uniformly accelerated motion. So A can be taken outside the integration sign, that is, we will integrate dt, and the integration of dt is t. So finally what do we get? At, since we were integrating it between the limits 0 to t, so we got At over here. Rearranging this, we can write it as v is equal to u plus at, which gives us our first equation of motion. Let's move to the second equation of motion, which is also known as distance time equation. Let us consider an object moving along a straight line with uniform acceleration a. Let at an instant t ds be the infinitesimally small displacement of the object in time interval dt. Then instantaneous velocity is given as ds upon dt. We have already studied this in previous classes. Rearranging it, we can write it as ds is equal to v dt. Now, instead of v, we can write u plus at, so it becomes ds is equal to u plus at dt. When we integrate it within the condition of motion, that is, the condition of motion here is for displacement, the initial value is 0 and the final value is s, whereas for time, the initial value is 0 and the final value is t. So integrating it between these terms, we get integration of ds from 0 to s is equal to, because u, that is the initial velocity, is constant, so it has been taken outside the integration sign, so it becomes integration from 0 to t of dt, plus again a being constant has been taken out, so it becomes integration of t dt from 0 to t. On integrating ds, we get s within the limits 0 to s. Integration of dt gives us t from limit 0 to t, and integration of t dt gives us t square upon 2 within the limit 0 to t. We have found this out by applying the formula of integration, that is x raised to the power n plus 1 upon n plus 1. Putting the limits, we get s is equal to ut plus half at square, which is our second equation of motion. Students, please note one thing. Here we had taken the initial distance as 0 and the final distance as s. What if we take the initial distance as x0 and final distance as x? So replacing this s with x minus x0, we get the whole equation to be similar, that is s is equal to x minus x0. So ut plus half at square, which is equal to ut plus half at square. Now rearranging this, we can write it as x is equal to x0 plus ut plus half at square. Please note again, this equation is applied when our initial distance has some other value other than 0. Let's move on to the third equation of motion, which is also known as velocity displacement equation. Let us consider an object moving along straight line with uniform acceleration a. Then a can be written as dv upon dt. Now further differentiating numerator and denominator with respect to ds, we can write it as dv upon ds into ds upon dt, which can also be written as a is equal to dv upon ds into v, because ds upon dt is equal to v. Or rearranging it, we can write it as a ds is equal to v dv. Now if u is the initial velocity, that is when the distance was 0, and v is the final velocity when the distance is s, then integrating within the condition of motion, we can write it as integration of a ds from 0 to s is equal to integration of v dv from u to v. Again, a being constant moves out, and when we integrate ds, we get s. Since the limit was 0 to s, so we have specified it as 0 to s. However, on integration of v dv, we get v square upon 2 by putting the formula x raised to the power n plus 1 whole upon n plus 1, and we have applied the limits over here, which is u to v. This can be written as as, which is equal to v square by 2 minus u square by 2. Rearranging it, we can write it as v square is equal to u square plus 2as, which gives us the third equation of motion. Now, how do these equations of motion work under gravity? Please note one thing. Under gravity, the acceleration becomes equal to gravitational acceleration, which is small g, whereas the distance covered becomes equal to the height of the object. So, the three equations of motion can be stated as v is equal to u plus gt, h is equal to ut plus half gt square, and v square is equal to u square plus 2gh. That is, in all the places we have replaced a with g and s with h. Note one thing, that if the object is moving vertically upwards, then the value of gravitational acceleration is taken as negative, because the object is moving in a direction opposite to the direction of gravitational acceleration or gravitational force. Our next topic is equation of motion along a smooth inclined plane. Now, what will happen if we take an inclined plane? This you can try it at your home also. You can place a plank such that its one end is on the ground and the other end is placed at some height on the wall. When you roll a ball from it, what do you observe? It's the same thing we are going to study over here. Let us consider an object O sliding down a smooth inclined plane AB. Like we took an example of ball, instead of that we are taking O over here. The acceleration of object O sliding down plane is g sine theta. Let's see how we have arrived to this decision. Have a look over here. Suppose the ball was kept freely over here and not on the inclined plane. In which direction it must have moved? Because of the acceleration of the gravity, it will move vertically downwards. And when it is moving vertically downwards, the acceleration that is being applied on it is g, that is small g, the gravitational acceleration. However, since the ball is moving in this direction instead of moving straight down due to the plank placed over here, so the acceleration acting on this object will be in this direction. Now, if we draw a line perpendicular to AB at the point where O is in contact with the plank, we see that it forms an angle theta with the direction of gravitational acceleration, that is vertically downwards direction. If we name this triangle as X, Y, O, what do we get? Cos theta can be given as, I'm writing this for rough, that is cos theta will be given as OY, that is base, upon hypotenuse, which is OX. So we can write OY as OX cos theta. Now, what do you observe? This OX is experiencing gravitational acceleration small g. So instead of OX, we can write it as small g cos theta when we have to represent the acceleration that will be experienced in the direction normal to the placement of the plank. In the same manner, if we have to find out the value of sine theta, it will be equal to perpendicular upon hypotenuse, which is xy upon OX. Again, this can be written as xy is equal to OX sine theta. Since the acceleration along OX is small g, so we can say that the acceleration along this direction will be g sine theta according to this equation. So we come to know that the ball or the object that is sliding down this inclined plane will experience a gravitational acceleration of g sine theta. So what are we going to do in the three equations of motion? Instead of writing a over there, we will write g sine theta. So the three equations of motion becomes v is equal to u plus g sine theta whole into t, s is equal to ut plus half g sine theta t square, v square is equal to u square plus 2 g sine theta s. Let's move to the next topic, that is distance traveled by an object in particular second. For example, if I say that a body moving in uniformly accelerated motion completes its motion in 10 seconds, then what will you answer if the question is put that what is the distance traveled by the body in the 10th second? Then we can calculate it in this manner. First of all, we will calculate the distance traveled by the body in complete 10 seconds, then the distance traveled by the body in 9 seconds, and then we are going to subtract the second from the first one. So we will get the amount of distance traveled by the body in the 10th second. In the same manner we are going to go about over here also. That is, first we will calculate the distance traveled in t seconds by using the second equation of motion, that is ut plus half at square. Then we are going to calculate the distance traveled in t minus 1 seconds, that is 1 second before t seconds, which can be written as the distance traveled in t minus 1 second is equal to, instead of t everywhere we will take it as t minus 1. So it becomes u into t minus 1 plus half a t minus 1 whole square. Now, because we have to calculate the distance traveled in the tth second, so we can do it by subtracting the second equation from the first equation. S is equal to st minus st minus 1, that is the distance traveled in t seconds minus the distance traveled in t minus 1 seconds. Putting the values and solving it, we get u plus half a to t minus 1 inside the bracket. This equation gives us the formula to find out the distance traveled by a body in the tth second. Here we end up with the chapter. Students, I am reminding again, keep solving as many numericals as you can to have a better understanding of the concept.